everyone, and welcome to Easter weekend. I hope it is all going well and that you are coping with all temptation and resisting the urge to dip your hand into the bowl of chocolate, break off the bit of egg. A couple of comments have come up on the Facebook page, and I just made me suddenly think I needed to probably go into sugars with you a little bit deeper. So grab yourself a cup of tea, don't put sugar in it. The bottom line is that you have a balanced diet and that we have a little bit of everything. A few little things that will help you understand it a bit better. The first thing you need to know, distinction between sugar and free sugars. So sugar is basically a single unit, single structure of glucose. If you have a double unit, a double structure, then it becomes sucrose. Now there's lots of names for sugar, which I'll come on to in a minute, but what you have to understand is that sugar is needed in our diet, particularly as active people. If you try to take sugar out of an athlete's diet, it would severely affect their performance. So as fit people working out most days of the week, we need a bit of sugar. Now we don't need loads, but we do need to understand the difference between this glucose and other free sugars, because it's the free sugars you need to learn about, because they're the ones that we need to cut down, because an over and abundance of those is what can increase our waistline and lead on to such things as diabetes, heart disease. We're trying to thrive in our life and get fitter and stronger, and we don't need all this complicated sugar stuff put a dent in our progress. So there's sugars and there's free sugars. Now sugar in your diet, glucose, comes in the form of carbohydrates. So we're talking fruit and vegetables, bread, rice, pasta, cereals, potatoes. They all contain sugar, they all contain glucose, they're all very good for you, they're all very high in fibre, and we need them in our diet in abundance, okay? So if you can make sure you remember that, and they are sugar, so if you go on a sugar-free diet, you wouldn't eat any of those things. Now that wouldn't be sensible, would it? Free sugars. Free sugars are the ones I was referring to the other day when I started to mumble on about teaspoons and grams and the back of the box of the Easter egg and that kind of thing. Now, free sugars are the ones that manufacturers add to foods, confectioners add to sweets and biscuits and cakes and things. Cooks and chefs will add them sometimes. People will add sugar to tea. Those are the added sugars, these free sugars, okay? They're free sugars. Now, free sugars, as I say, are the ones that are added to our food. When you look at a food label, you see the word carbohydrate, of which sugars, okay? Now, there are some sugars that are naturally found in this world in the form of lactose, which is in milk and yogurt and cheese. And then you've got your glucose, which is in your fruit and your vegetables, your rice, pasta, cereals, potatoes, that kind of thing. Now, when you read your food label, unfortunately, they don't distinguish between the naturally occurring sugars and the sugars that are added. So if you are looking, for example, at something like this, a yogurt that has got naturally occurring lactose, which is okay to have, and it doesn't count towards your 7 sugar cubes, your 30 grams a day, but it does have added sugars because they sweeten it. This one, on the other hand, just has lactose and doesn't have any added sugars in it. How do we know that? Well, because we read the food labels. So the next thing you need to do to help yourself understand whether there are free sugars in a product is read the food label. So if you can't necessarily see this unless I zoom in close. And I told you the other day that food labels are labelled in the quantity of the ingredients. So you get the biggest quantity first. So this one starts with organic whole milk yogurt, and the very second ingredient on the label is organic sugar. And then we carry on down, and there's a couple of others because there's juice, or there's concentrated juice, which I'll come to in a minute, which is another sugar. So bottom line, you want a balanced diet, but you need to understand these food labels to see where the added sugars are, because would you believe that in this, it's a terrible box, but this is a Spanish chorizo manchego pizza I won't be eating this, but just for purposes of what we're talking about here, you wouldn't pick that up and think there's sugar in that, would you? But actually, apart from the bread, which is our glucose, which is the sugar that we want, okay, that's the naturally occurring sugar. When the people went into making this pizza, if we look at the ingredients list, we can see that about, I don't know, 6 or 7 ingredients in, there's dextrose. Did you know dextrose? I'm sure you did, is a sugar. So there's dextrose in there. Oh, up here, that there's where dextrose first comes in, and so on. So you may not have known to look for that, but I'm telling you, it's in there. We've got this packet of granola here, which is a strawberry, apple and raspberry granola. Bit of a treat, not the sort of thing you want to have every day, because when you look at the food label, you've got your whole grain flakes, your oats, which is a good form of carbohydrate, but the next ingredient is sugar. And then if we keep going on, there's one here, glucose syrup. That's another name for sugar. Then we've got honey. Yes, honey is a sugar. It's an added sugar. It's one of your free sugars. It counts towards the 7 or 5 or 6 sugar cubes a day. You have to count it. Cane molasses, another word for sugar. Let's go through other words you need to look for on a food label that mean sugar. Cane syrup is one of them. Honey is another. It's an added sugar that people add in, okay? Fruit juices are a naturally occurring sugar, but we can't have too many of them, okay? Brown sugar, dextrose, fructose, sucrose. Write these down, get yourself a pen and paper. Glucose, maltose, high fructose corn syrup, molasses. These are the forms of sugar that get added to your foods. Fruit juice concentrate, that was in the yogurt just a second ago. Isoglucose, crystalline sucrose and nectars. All right, those are all other words for the free sugars that you'll see, unless it just is a potato or a fruit like a piece of strawberry or an orange or something like that. They're all added in and they count to those free sugars, which we shouldn't have too many of. So it was 30 grams for us. 4 to 6 year olds are 19 grams and 7 to 10 year olds are 24 grams of no more than of the free sugars a day. So picking up a packet of sweets, or you're picking up an ice lolly, or you're picking up an Easter egg, have a look and see, because 9 times out of 10 they'll probably go over that. Your kids will probably eat more than that in a day if you're not careful. Now you'll see certain things like tomato sauces that you can put on pastas. If you don't make your own, the manufacturers will add sugar to those things, and they do that to take away the acidic flavour of the tomato. Now the tomato is a carbohydrate, a sugar, but then they're adding extra on top of that, and that's what they do. That's what you need to be careful of. You don't need to go completely sugar-free, but you do have to understand where the sugars are coming from and when they're added. And when they're added, we have a limit we shouldn't go above, because if we do, that's when we start to get tooth decay. We start to lay down fat on our bodies, because the sugar, that's what happens to it. And you need to make sure you're not having too much of that, because then you become overweight. We start to think about things like diabetes. Beware, in the average adult diet, most of the sugar that we ingest comes from cakes and biscuits and sweets. If you look at a child's diet, so the diet of children aged between about 4 and 11, the majority of their sugar comes from drinks, fruit juices and fizzy drinks, okay? You have to be careful because of other things that they do have. The other thing to think about in a youngster's diet is these cereals. So they're like this granola I showed you here. Just check your cereal packets, Shreddies, even bran flakes, things like that. Have a look at them. Cheerios, just see. I don't know off the top of my head how much sugar they have in, but I do know it is added. It will be in the ingredients list, so just have a look and see. Now if they don't get sugar anywhere else in their diet, let them have it. Of course, chocolate, it doesn't matter if it's dark chocolate or if it's dairy milk or Galaxy or whatever it may be. It can be the best quality chocolate in the world. There's still added sugar, and quite a lot of it. The concentration of sugar added to a chocolate bar is very high, which means therefore the calories are very high. It's a quick shot of a lot of energy when you eat a piece of chocolate. So it doesn't matter even if you're making your own and you melt some chocolate and you put it into stuff, it still counts as sugar. And it's the added free sugars that you're adding there when you add chocolate. The other thing I just wanted to clear up is juicing. So the reason why there's more sugar in an orange when it's juiced into a glass than the orange itself is because if you make a juice of orange juice this big and then you ate the number of oranges that were in that juice, it would take you a long time to eat those oranges, as opposed to being able to gulp that down and done in a few seconds. So you've got all that sugar in one go. It's a lot easier to have too much sugar when you drink it compared to when you eat it. It's scientifically proven when the cells are kept in their cell structure and they're eaten whole, you're going to get more fibre, and therefore it's a more natural form of getting that sugar, and you won't eat as much of it, and it's ingested in the body in a better way. Fruit whole as they were meant to be, rather than trying to whiz them up all the time. Now, I know I did a juice the other day for Lexi because she was poorly, but she wouldn't eat anything else. It was mixed in with some milk. There wasn't loads of fruit broken down in there, and it was an occasion where she needed it because she needed some goodness and she wasn't going to get it any other way because she couldn't swallow. So there are times when you can break the rules, but we're looking at long-term lifestyle and keeping this going forever. So if we understand, if we educate ourselves and understand all this, then you're going to be able to make the educated choices as to where you get your free sugars from. You might want honey on toast for breakfast. Well, that's great, but be careful then what else you have for the rest of your day. All right, so balance it out. Bottom line, eat a good balanced diet for you and your family. Start to understand the food labels, start to see what's in stuff. Interestingly, if you look at a food label here, pretty much isn't one. What's in this? Milk, that's it. Okay, so the difference between that and what's in this, the ingredients list is about 8 items long on this one. If any of that confuses you, I know it can be very confusing. I was hoping to make it clear. I've probably rambled on for too long. I hope you're enjoying your cup of tea and that you went and got one. Remember to be honest with yourself. If you are going to have a treat, make sure it is a treat. If you say that it's a rare treat, then rare means infrequent. Therefore, like myself, I like to kid myself that I have a rare treat of a glass of wine, but in the cold light of day and in the reality of it all, I probably treat myself every Friday. And because Friday comes around every 7 days, it's not particularly infrequent. It's actually quite frequent, so it's not very rare, and it's probably a little bit more of a habit than it is a rare treat. So think about that yourself as well. Really, honestly, how often do you have certain things? Write it down, identify it and see whether it really is rare or whether it actually is part of your weekly diet plan. Any questions, let me know. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the weekend with your families, and I will see you hopefully again tomorrow on Easter Sunday without any chocolate around me, but doing a workout.